Most men believe they understand the art of kissing. It seems simple, even instinctive, a gesture of affection we all think we've mastered since our teenage years. But after more than 15 years as a urologist and intimacy specialist, I can tell you something few men ever hear. 90% of men are kissing all the wrong places. They focus on the obvious, the lips, the neck, maybe the chest, and miss the 3 hidden zones that can send waves of pleasure through her entire nervous system and ignite an emotional connection so powerful she'll crave your presence for days afterward. I'm Dr. Olivia Harper, and today I want to show you something that has transformed how thousands of men approach intimacy. You're about to learn 3 specific spots on a woman's body that activate not just physical pleasure, but emotional trust and deep connection. These are not random areas. They're neurological gateways, points that link directly to her brain's pleasure and bonding centers. And once you understand the science of why these spots work, you'll never look at intimacy the same way again. But before we explore these 3 zones, there's something I need you to understand. Something that changes everything about how touch and connection evolve with age. As men get older, especially after 50, their approach to intimacy needs to change. The energy that once came from youth, urgency, and adrenaline no longer creates the same results. The old habits, fast, aggressive, goal-oriented, often do more harm than good. You see, women in their mature years are not craving speed or dominance. They're craving presence, the kind that only a grounded, confident man can bring. They want intention, gentleness, and emotional safety. They want a man who understands that true intimacy doesn't start with the body, it starts with the mind. It begins with curiosity, it flows through emotional connection, and it blossoms through touch that feels mindful and secure. The 3 spots I'm about to reveal work because they go deeper than physical stimulation. They activate her emotional memory, trigger her bonding hormones, and build a sense of safety that allows her to open up fully, physically and emotionally. And the beauty is this: these techniques don't fade with age. They actually become stronger, because with maturity comes something youth can never compete with: patience. And patience is exactly what these spots require. Let's start with the first one. And this may surprise you because it's not where most men think to focus. It's the soft hollow at the base of her throat, right where the collarbones meet. That small dip above her heart is one of the most sensitive and emotionally charged places on her body. Just beneath that delicate skin lies a cluster of nerves connected to the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body. This nerve runs from her brainstem all the way down to her heart, lungs, and abdomen. It's responsible for calming her body, slowing her heart rate, deepening her breathing, and creating that warm feeling of relaxation and emotional safety. When you kiss this spot with gentleness, you're not just kissing skin. You're literally sending a signal to her nervous system that says, "You are safe here." That signal floods her body with oxytocin, the hormone of trust, closeness, and connection. But here's the key, and this is where most men go wrong. This area requires utter tenderness. The skin here is paper thin. Beneath it lies her windpipe, her blood vessels, and her heartbeat. It is one of the most vulnerable places on the human body, which is precisely why it's so powerful when touched with reverence. Think about it from her perspective. When your lips touch that hollow, she cannot see what you're doing. She must trust you completely. And if you approach with patience, no pressure, no hurry, you send a silent message: "I see you. I honor your vulnerability." That single moment of trust can be more intimate than 1,000 hurried kisses. So how do you do it right? Start by holding her close, let your breathing slow, then gently rest your lips against that hollow. Don't press, don't move, just breathe with her. Let her feel your warmth. Then, ever so lightly, kiss her there, as though you were touching silk with your lips. If you're gentle enough, something incredible happens. Her breathing deepens, her shoulders drop, her entire body softens against yours. That's her nervous system shifting from alertness to surrender. She's not giving up control. She's letting go of tension. She's allowing you in. And when a woman feels safe enough to relax, that's when intimacy transforms. That's when her body and her heart open fully. Now let's move to the second spot, and this one is even more surprising because it's hidden in plain sight. It's her inner forearm just above the pulse point on her wrist, about 2 inches up from where her hand meets her arm. This area contains the superficial radial nerve, a nerve that communicates directly with the brain's arousal centers. But unlike the more obvious zones, stimulating this spot doesn't cause instant heat or urgency. Instead, it creates what researchers call anticipatory pleasure, that delicious, slow-building tension that heightens her awareness and deepens her desire. Here's what makes this so powerful. Most men never think to kiss a woman's forearm, and that's exactly why it works. It's unexpected. It bypasses her defenses. It tells her, I'm not rushing to the obvious, I want to explore all of you. When you take her hand in conversation, maybe while sitting together, laughing, or sharing a story, and you gently turn her wrist upward, it's an act of curiosity. Then, when you bring her forearm to your lips, you're breaking a pattern she didn't even know she had. The skin on the inner forearm is soft, sensitive, and rarely touched. It's filled with nerve endings that almost never get stimulated. When your lips awaken them, her brain lights up with signals that travel through her entire body. Many women describe it as tingles or waves of warmth that start at the wrist and spread up the arm, through the chest, and down the body. Here's how to make it unforgettable. Hold her hand softly, look into her eyes, really look, and then slowly lift her wrist to your lips. Start about 2 inches above the pulse and place a single, long kiss. Hold it for a moment, then move slightly upward and repeat. Each kiss should last a few seconds, with a pause between them, like punctuation in a sentence. What you're doing here is creating a sensory cascade, a chain reaction that builds layer by layer. It's subtle, elegant, and incredibly intimate. By the time you reach her elbow, her nervous system will be humming with anticipation. This isn't just about touch, it's about timing. You're teaching her body to wait, to feel, to want. And that slow burn of anticipation is what makes mature intimacy so much deeper and more fulfilling than the quick spark of youth. Now, the third spot, the one that has the greatest potential for emotional and physical transformation, lies on her inner thigh about 4 inches above the knee. But before we go there, I want you to pause and remember something essential. This spot only works when she's completely relaxed and trusting. If you rush to it too early, it can feel invasive or overwhelming. The skin here, soft, warm, often hidden, is deeply vulnerable. This area sits within what doctors call the femoral triangle, a zone rich in blood vessels and nerves that connect directly to her pelvic region. When kissed gently and respectfully, it sends electrical signals that travel through her femoral nerve, which communicates directly with the same network responsible for pleasure and climax. But here's the secret. The real magic isn't just in the nerve endings, it's in the message behind the kiss. When you take the time to explore her inner thigh slowly, reverently, you're showing her something few men ever do, that you love and desire every part of her, not just the obvious ones. When you kiss her inner thigh with gentleness and care, you are speaking a language far older than words, one that tells her, I see your softness, I cherish your vulnerability, and I desire you without demanding anything from you. This kind of touch is powerful precisely because it asks for nothing in return. It gives her permission to feel rather than perform, to surrender rather than brace. Here's how to approach this sacred area with grace and intention. Begin not at her thigh, but at her knee. Kiss the top or inside of it first. Slow, deliberate, respectful. Pause for a few moments. Let your breath, your presence, your patience fill the silence. Then, with soft lips, move upward an inch at a time. Each kiss should feel lighter than the one before, as if your lips are tracing invisible energy rather than skin. Watch her body language closely, her breathing, her muscles, the tiny movements that tell you whether she's opening or holding back. If she tenses, stop immediately and return to a place of safety, perhaps her wrist, her shoulder, or her neck. But if she relaxes, if her breath deepens and her hand reaches toward you, continue slowly. This moment isn't about performance or conquest. It's about reverence. the inner thigh carries a deep emotional charge. For many women, it's an area tied to body image, self-consciousness, or vulnerability. When you kiss it gently, not with hunger, but with admiration, you are rewriting those associations. You're replacing old memories of judgment or shame with the feeling of being cherished. Biologically, this region is extraordinary. The femoral nerve that runs through the upper thigh communicates with the same sensory centers activated during arousal. When stimulated lightly, it sends signals upward through the pelvic network, increasing blood flow, oxygen, and warmth. It doesn't just awaken pleasure, it amplifies connection. The power of this area is in how it blends the physical and emotional. It's the bridge between sensuality and trust, and that combination, safety plus excitement, is what allows a woman to fully let go. But remember, this third spot only works when approached at the right time. You cannot rush it. It's the crescendo of a slow symphony, not the opening act. The longer you build trust through the first two zones, the throat and the forearm, the more profound her response will be when you finally reach this one. Now let's step back and understand why these three areas are so transformative. The truth is, they each activate what neuroscientists call C-tactile afferent fibers. These are specialized nerve endings that respond not to firm pressure, but to gentle, loving touch, the kind meant for connection, not survival. When stimulated, these fibers send slow, soothing signals to the brain, specifically to the insula, the region responsible for emotional awareness and empathy. In simple terms, when you kiss or caress these areas softly, you are literally triggering her brain's bonding system. The same pathways that light up during emotional intimacy, trust, and love. That's why this kind of touch can bring tears to a woman's eyes, even in moments of pleasure. It's not just stimulation, it's recognition. It's her nervous system realizing, I'm safe, I'm seen, I'm wanted. This is why mature men, especially those over 50, often have an advantage in this kind of intimacy. You've lived, you've learned patience, you've outgrown the frantic energy of youth. And that patience is the secret ingredient. It allows you to slow down, to observe, to feel her energy rather than trying to control it. You don't need to perform, you just need to be present. You see, the younger man often kisses to prove, the mature man kisses to connect, and that difference changes everything. When you approach these hidden zones with intention, when you kiss not to achieve a goal but to explore, every touch becomes an act of communication. Every pause becomes an invitation, and every response from her body becomes a wordless dialogue between two nervous systems syncing in trust and rhythm. Let's make this even more practical. Timing matters. The throat kiss works best in quiet, emotionally charged moments. When you're holding her from behind, whispering to her, or slow dancing in the kitchen, that's when you let your lips find that soft hollow. The forearm kiss is perfect for moments of conversation. You can do it while sitting together, after she shares something personal, or when you're holding her hand and she's laughing. It's disarming, affectionate, and incredibly grounding. The inner thigh kiss, as we've said, belongs to the most intimate setting. When her body is already open, her breathing slow, and her eyes trusting, that's when it becomes sacred. And here's something most men miss. You don't always have to finish. Sometimes, simply kissing these areas without moving further creates the most lasting impression. Why? Because you're teaching her body that your touch is not a demand, it's a gift. Now, let's talk about what these techniques represent psychologically. Women, especially mature women, are not just responding to physical sensation. They are responding to presence. They are constantly scanning for signs of safety, curiosity, and genuine desire. When you slow down, pay attention, and explore with care, her nervous system receives the message that she can relax. And once that happens, her capacity for pleasure multiplies. You see, desire is not only about arousal, it's about safety in the experience of arousal. It's about knowing that she can be fully herself, soft, emotional, uninhibited, without fear of being judged or rushed. These three kissing zones, the hollow of her throat, the inner forearm, and the inner thigh, work not just because they stimulate nerve endings, but because they symbolize trust. The throat represents vulnerability. The wrist symbolizes openness, and the inner thigh signifies surrender. When you learn to honor all three, you're not just kissing her body, you're kissing her spirit, and that is something most men will never understand. But you, the mature man who listens, who learns, who's willing to be patient, you have the ability to create experiences that she'll remember for a lifetime. Because true intimacy isn't about youth or performance, it's about presence. It's about knowing that every moment of tenderness is a conversation between two souls. So tonight, the next time you find yourself holding her, don't rush to the obvious. Let your curiosity guide you. Explore the quiet places where her heartbeat lives, where her skin warms under your breath, where trust blooms in silence. And as you do, remember this truth. A woman never forgets the man who made her feel safe enough to be fully alive in her own body. That is the gift of mature masculinity. That is the beauty of mindful touch. And that, more than anything else, is what makes a kiss unforgettable.